Board, January 14th, 2025. Roll call, please.
Peterson,
Present.
Gooding,
Present.
Adamich, Hamilton,
President.
Brinsley.
Here.
On speaker.
Okay. Next item, public comment. Empty out there today. All right, number 3, approval of the agenda. Everybody had a chance to take a look at tonight's agenda? Any questions? Motion to approve?
Motion.
Second, motion by motion by one, second by the other. Motion by Peterson, second by Hamilton. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Nays? Ayes have it. Okay, number 4, approval of the utility board meeting minutes from December 17th, 2024. Anybody see anything that needs to be corrected or added, subtracted? Motion to approve? Motion. Motion by Hamilton,
Second.
second by Gooding. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Ayes have it. Okay. Moving right along, number 5. A, consideration to approve the bills payable. Do we have a chance to take a look at those? Any,
I have one question. That was for Dickerson. That's the last of all the Dickerson that we owe them for then.
Yep, so that check was sent with the letter that Allison prepared. They accepted that as final payment and settled out. So, and then sent, I think she sent you the link for the additional documents that they turned over. So that should be closed out now.
good news.
Yep.
Anything else? Any other questions on that? Motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion by Peterson. Second by Hamilton. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Nay? Ayes have it. Okay, 5B, consideration of the resolution 2025-01, the electric and water naming authorized depositories. So this is a second time that's been added to this agenda for the reading, I guess. So, any further discussion on that with the, no, this is the depositories for the investments, right?
For the, yep, these are the financial institutions that you, are approving to be able to put funds in. The only one that we are using right now is First Central State Bank.
Correct.
The other ones have just been approved financial, institutions in the past, so we leave those on there. I did bring, they had DeWitt Bank at 12 million as the last proposed resolution. We don't have anything there, so I brought that back down to 3. First Central State Bank, you're right at 12 million. So you could go to 12.5 to be safe there, just to give some buffer, or even 13. But we're floating right around 12 million, so.
So we're bumping up the maximum right now on that with First Central.
Yep, it's at 12 right now, but if you want to approve it at higher, then we can amend that resolution. Have you signed the amended one, and you can still approve it tonight if you want to go up to 12.5 or 13. Right now, I think the balance when I checked yesterday for the money market was 12.1 million.
So is there a reason to spread all these out other than the limit?
No, so I don't think we have any funds in any of the other banks other than First Central. These are just, the ones that have either been used in the past or that are local and that are on the approved state list, so that you could deposit funds there if you wanted to. And those limits are smaller just because we don't have anything large in there. We don't have anything in there, so we could remove them, but it's good practice just to have some additional financial institutions approved on there.
Okay.
The only one you're currently using is First Central.
Do you know what the money market rate's currently at for First Central?
I don't. I think the last time we checked, it was right around 4.
Okay.
But
they do anticipate that going down.
Sure.
So you'll probably hover right around the 12 million.
any discussion on maybe raising that to 13 million, just to be on the safe side? Thoughts?
I don't have a problem with that. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't see the point in spreading it around to 5 or 6 different.
Yeah, it's
locations.
easier to keep track of it if it's in one location.
Yeah, yeah, but the investments we may wanna consider will more likely go through First Central anyhow, so.
So if we have it at one place and we go with our T-bills through First Central, so we get it all in one place and we don't have, doesn't get lost.
Yeah,
We can always amend if there is a, an institution that you want to use that's not on here later, we can amend that halfway through the year or at any time. So that's always an option too.
I think bumping it to 13 is a good idea, just in the event.
Okay, any other discussion on that? Do I hear a motion, for a resolution amending the First Central to 13 million?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Gooding,
Second.
second by Peterson, all in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Nays, ayes have it. Okay. 5C, consideration to approve utility billing procedure manual. So a chance to take a look at that. So it looks like we're gonna settle in on what option 2, where we're not adding, additional fees to that, that we're gonna capture 65% of anything that this third-party agency will collect.
Right,
Okay, because there's 2 options, right? There was one that would add an additional, option 1 was to add a fee on top of a delinquent amount. And option 2 would be for us to settle for, I think, 65%.
75.
Was it 75?
It's not remember.
So we've got 2 different things. We've got the billing policy, which
Okay.
is just gonna be our internal policies for billing and collecting, and there's a bunch of different procedures included in. And then there's the third-party collections as the next agenda item, so they go together. Let me see, it says 65% with the rate of recovery.
Yep.
But
Oh,
I
rate of
don't-
recovery, okay.
For their success rate.
That's why that stuck out for me.
MCOA shall receive 20% of the balance paid on any debt in which the client has added a 25% collection late fee at delinquency prior to listing with MCOA. They collect 10% of the balance paid through the set-off program and 25% on any debts that the client has not added that 25% collection late fee, and it was collected through MCOA's efforts and not
Yep,
state of Iowa.
okay, so state of Iowa pays us 10,
25% or 10%.
and then if they round up the money, and then it's 25 is their, and that's the option 2 then, right? So the
For
first option was to add a fee on top of the delinquent amount from the offset. Not from the offset, state offset, but when the account was declared delinquent, I thought there was the option 1 where they would add a $25 fee that they would get, but then we would get more back.
We can add, in the state code, there is an option, we can add a 25% late fee to those accounts that go to collections, and then that would cover the 25% they collect.
Okay,
And he would help, us incorporate that into our policy. We wanted to do that going
okay,
forward.
so that's just on the collection side.
Yes.
Okay,
So essentially, if I'm understanding what you're saying correctly from that, so we give them 25% of what they collect if it's through their efforts and not the state set-off program. So if we wanted to apply that 25% before giving it over to collections, we would get that full amount that we were owed, and they would still get the 25%. Is that right?
Right.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's,
It just covers us.
yeah. Okay, any more discussion on the, service agreement then, and any other questions?
I think it'd be better off just, not give them 25%. I mean, let them collect it and then take their share out of it. Versus,
Out of what we're owed.
yes,
So we would have to add that 25% then to the delinquent, when it goes delinquent, we would have to add it And the state does make a provision for us to do that, right, so. But we would have to amend our policy to reflect that.
Yes, and I don't think, we don't have third party collections into the billing policy, right? Do we?
I don't know what something.
We had the state set off in there.
Okay, maybe that's what I was thinking.
I know we talked about it at the same time,
What's your feeling about?
so we can have that.
Yeah, there's a collections.
I don't have much experience with collection agencies.
I don't either, that. You,
They claim 65% success rate, so. And I don't know how much of that comes from the state, which we would have got anyhow through the state without them.
65 we would have got.
Well, they're claiming 65% success rate. Of the 65%, I don't know how much they get through the state or how much is through their efforts.
39% of that 65% is from the state set off, and
Okay.
61% is from their own efforts, and they said that's pretty consistent with their clients across the state of Iowa. But based off of Davenport.
So is this for someone that disconnects and then?
Right,
Or is
Yeah.
that
they have a final
ongoing?
bill.
Yeah,
It's 90 days after it's set and not paid.
so when it's finally turned over to final collections, and it's.
Not sure on any. What do you guys think?
I mean, if we had the 25% already rewritten, pre-written into this, then it kind of covers the rest of it and stuff, so I think we have to almost change one and then approve the other. In order for it to flow, where we're not gonna get dinged either way,
that was kind of my
yeah.
thinking.
Do you have a percentage of, I mean, overall, I mean, how many delinquent accounts?
No, it's the 40,000.
Yeah.
That 40,000 is just the debt that we can't turn in because we don't have social security numbers and stuff. Everything else has been sent to the set off, but a third party collection would allow for these debts that don't have all of the information to be turned in to a collection agency, and then they'll collect that information and collect the debt from there. So it will definitely help
Mhm.
Right.
to collect a lot of that debt.
Some of them are pretty old though. I mean,
Yeah.
it's,
1995, I believe, is what I was reading on there. That's a,
Yeah,
But right now, I mean, we don't probably get a whole lot through the state set off program.
Yeah, not compared to what there is out there, no.
So we almost need them to go after, because the state set off program isn't capturing.
Yeah. I mean, I think a third party collection would be really effective.
Yeah.
for-
yeah, I'm all for the third party collection. It's just a matter of, do we want to add the 25% into the policy as a delinquent, fine or add an additional amount to that balance? Or do we want to reduce our 25% and not include that? I mean, it's just in the language, right? If we put it in the policy and the procedure, then it goes to the person that's in delinquency,
Yeah.
so.
I mean, it might be a deterrent to pay your bill.
Yeah. I mean, I say we do the 25% in our policy, and that way, regardless, it's on them, it's upfront, going from here on forward. They know that if they default on it, it's 25% will be sent to collections, and that's just the way it is.
Okay, so that's option one then, correct?
I think we just have the one option for the
Okay.
collections, and it's whether or not. I mean, this third party agency is the only one that we have, in front of you for consideration. Adding the 25% is just up to you. The billing policy is, just an internal policy that we have. So if we go ahead and the board approves that third party collection agency will include that collections, provision as part of the policy. We'll get that added in.
Okay.
Right now, it's not in there. We just have the state set off program.
All right,
I guess the only last question I have, it's not like the city of Davenport does where if let's just say it's a rental property and the tenant doesn't pay the bill, doesn't hit the penalty, right?
It goes.
It stays with the tenant.
Okay.
whoever give their guest the social security number to establish service, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Fine with 25%.
Yeah, is there do we automatically have it set up too that, I mean, I know for our properties, when people are delinquent, we get a notice.
That's an option.
Yeah, do people sign up for that? Is that an automatic thing? I guess.
Automatic, so especially I think when we're getting posted, like the door hangers, it generates the landlord.
Okay, just so that way we can, you know, as landowners or landlords, we can all kind of keep track of that and make sure.
Right.
You know. As well. Okay. Perfect.
Okay. So do I hear a motion to approve the MCOA to manage the debt collections?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Gooding,
I'll second
second by Peterson. All in favor, say aye.
it.
Aye. Nays? Ayes have it.
Do you wanna do the billing procedures manual, this item C?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I did
That's
just
okay.
skip over that. I'm sorry. Yeah, 5C, consideration to approve the utility billing procedures manual. That was the first part of that.
Yep, that's the internal process for us to kind of outline our billing policies so that we can enforce those.
So we just need to amend that to say add the 25%.
Yep, this, approving it will establish it because we don't have one at all right now, so,
Okay.
Sadie and Keegan worked on that and is electric in there too, probably. I don't know if it's just for water, but, getting all of the policies that we need to be able to enforce established, and then we can go ahead and amend this policy once it's approved and add in that third-party collections.
Okay.
Okay,
A motion?
motion by Peterson,
Second,
second by Hamilton. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Ayes have it. And Nevada, do you have any department updates or Sadie, department updates on the financial administrative side?
The website proposal was approved. They came down to the 44. It did cut out some of the, options that we had for the interactive parts of the website, but if we get through this process and everybody's really happy, we can always add those back in later, but we were able to get them down to that amount to be able to get that approved. So that kickoff will start next week on the 23rd. That team will be down here visiting with city staff, doing some community surveys and just working with the departments to get that project started. Budget progress, the February meetings for the utility board will start going over the budget for electric and water. Those initial discussions so that we can get approval from the utility board and get that in front of the city council in March before it goes for adoption by the state.
Okay,
That's all I've got.
and I think we got kind of a brief summary at the beginning on the Dickinson Law Firm is, they've accepted our offer and it's behind us, and I think there's some additional documents we could chase, but
So did Allison send out a summary to you guys?
Yeah.
Okay, and I thought I saw it go through, but I wasn't sure. So there's a link in that email, because it's kind of a large file, but that has all of the documents. They've signed the affidavit that everything has now been turned over as of the time that they sent that link, and they've accepted final payment.
okay, good. Okay. Moving on to number 6, the electric department, 6A outages. Colin, anything?
Just
No outages, excellent. Okay. 6B, discussion and consideration to authorize the sale of surplus equipment to include a 2010 Chevy Silverado 2500 HD truck and a 2014 Ford F-250 truck. And I believe there was a website that Jeff had used before for other city equipment to get rid of. that, you've had success with, I think, street sweeper and other things.
That's correct. So Colin did let me know this morning, that the Chevy Silverado is a 1,500, not a 2,500. I think the rest of the information is pretty accurate for that. And the 2014 Ford was replaced with the Ford that was just approved in this fiscal year.
Yeah.
They did consider trade on these, but the value that was, that they were gonna give them for the trade wasn't impressive enough to go down that route. They feel like they're gonna have better luck with this Purple Wave website that they sold the street sweeper on.
Now, do we advertise that Purple Wave anywhere in publication for opportunity for local citizens if they wish to pursue any of these vehicles or no?
We haven't, we've only used it possibly only once, if not just a couple of times, in the past, and the Purple Wave handles, that advertising, but we certainly can put out on Facebook or put something out. We've talked about that a little bit too with, putting the unit out in front of the city shop and having some sort of signage that it's available on Purple Wave so that local people that aren't familiar with the site or don't have that opportunity to see that advertising will know that it's for sale and where they can find it.
Sure, yeah, I think that's a good idea. Website and a Facebook page and Eldridge page, it's,
So you having it out there and having a copy of the information on the windows, and I think they were gonna reach out to Tony and talk about that, but I'll get it a little bit.
yeah.
Let people.
Yeah, local citizens, if anybody's.
There was some discussion about possibly putting it up for sale locally first and setting a price. I don't think that the council was real comfortable with that. If we put it out there and let the public know that there's an opportunity and where to go to do that at, I think is probably gonna be the least taxing
Yeah,
everybody.
Yeah,
Do you know what the seller's fee is for Purple Wave?
So there's no seller's fee, there's a buyer's fee. I think the buyer's fee is around 10%.
Can we put a reserve on it on Purple Wave? I'm assuming we would put
a
whatever the
cushion.
trade number, above the trade number.
Yeah.
okay. So do I hear a motion for Jeff to proceed with the listing the vehicles, Purple Wave?
Motion.
Motion by Peterson,
Second.
second by Hamilton. Favor say aye. Aye. Nays? Ayes have it. And Colin, any other department updates you have?
Right after Christmas was when we did the school cut over for Allen Shepherd and Long Grove, so that's all taken care of. Obviously, we've had our budget discussion with Nevada and everything going forward for starting this first go around. The guys, they've installed some services, so that's all right. They've fought through some frost, but they got through it, so we're getting things taken care of out there in the field, and they had them they do inventory, our shop inventory for materials every year and stuff, so I can keep my running list updated for the start of every year, what we got in stock or so helps me get along with things that we're getting low on and for project anticipations and stuff like that, so other than that, I will be gone the rest of the week in Ankeny for the superintendent and line foreman's meeting for IAMU. So,
Okay. All right. That's in Des Moines?
yeah, Ankeny.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Colin.
Thank you, Colin.
Thank you.
Moving on to number 7A, water main breaks. None report, okay. We're doing good.
You guys not gonna do it or anything? Or-
We've still got some cold temperatures ahead of us.
Gonna warm up, gonna freeze again, and warm up.
Friday's gonna be scary.
Yeah, okay. 7B, water test results.
Everything's good. Back to East Pass for December. Fluoride was standard level. I think it was 0.64, 0.63, something like that.
Okay.
So, I have not checked our compliance list. I don't know what compliance we'll have to start this year yet. But for right now, we're just rolling with bacteria and fluoride every month. So as soon as compliance starts coming up, there are things that we test every 3 to 6 years. So I'll see what's on the list, and then as those things come in and we send them out, I'll keep you guys updated on those lists or those tests as well.
Did that valve, I'm sorry.
Does that change on a rate, like somewhat on a rotation or something like that for certain requirements or?
So as our city grows, like population's a big one, and then if we get like heavy commercial industrial users, they add some into our compliance.
Okay,
So as of right now, the way that Eldridge is growing, I don't think like our next compliance bump is until we hit like 10,000, so.
Okay.
We'll just pretty much keep it steady.
Did that valve get fixed?
So they came down and they filled the tank, and then they were supposed to come. They were supposed to come right before Christmas, but because of the time of the year, I could not make it down, so I'm still waiting on them to come down.
Okay.
So I can actually connect to them, and get with them tomorrow.
Okay. Seven C, consideration to approve the superintendent job description and base wage, so I think everybody received that, for the superintendent job for the water department, any discussion on that, any questions? Saw the follow-up with the other communities, that's helpful, that was very helpful. Cause I do the same thing and try to compare to other communities and so,
So we actually participated in a comparable study that another city was doing too, and usually when they do that, they'll send us the results, and I got those, after this was already put together, but I did double check it against, all of those comparable cities too, for both the operator positions and the superintendent, and it was consistent with, all of the findings that are in here. Just, as a note for our water operators, we are either at the high end or maybe above in our pay scale. So we're in good shape with where they're at. They're comparable for sure with all of the other cities. So what I put together for the superintendent is kind of that mid-level. It still leaves a decent gap with the water operator position at grade 2. But it's in line with the other cities and, fits with the budget numbers as well, so.
okay. Anybody else, anything to add on that? So that range you had of 92 to 94 on that, is that, do we need are we looking to vote on a range there, or are we gonna hone in on a number? Finalize a number there?
And I would recommend finalizing the number, because we'll fill that position now that we've got, another full-time operator signed on, then we've got the room to be able to move someone into that superintendent position.
Sure.
On that average for Iowa, 101,550, is that everything up here that you're taking in the average, or is that all across Iowa?
That's just a stat from, if you would look up that average for the state of Iowa. So that's what you would get if you just typed in a simple, request to find what the average for that position would be in the state of Iowa. So breaking it down to the cities is going to give you that more, the mean and the median above that are taken from the numbers that are listed here for the comparable cities.
Gotcha.
Any thoughts on that, where we wanna be? I mean, it looks like it's where we need to be, so.
you just split the difference.
93, it's kind of what I was thinking. Anybody else have any input on that?
Fine with that.
Good with that. Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve the superintendent job description and the base wage of 93,000 a year?
Motion.
Motion by Peterson,
Second.
second by Hamilton. Favor say aye. Aye. Nays? Ayes have it. Okay, 7D. Consideration to approve the use of PVC for the water mains, subject to the passage of an ordinance amendment by the city council. So I think we've talked about this in the past, switching over to those PVC mains.
Yeah, we just, obviously with the new additions, the new subdivisions are going in Eldridge. We do have an opportunity to have developers start to make that process happen for us. And then as we move forward with repairs and replacements, we can start implementing that in. But the biggest thing that I think I've talked to you guys before is the corrosivity that we're experiencing on our water mains, the duct on the cast. I would say 90% of the time we're seeing blowouts from pitting rather than just clean breaks. And that's due to the corrosivity of our soil. So plastic can virtually eliminate all of that. I know there's old timers that will definitely really go against the ductile or going against getting away from ductile because their big thing is leak detection. And yeah, leak detection is it's not very capable on plastic, but also plastic, I think, offers a lot more pros other than the loss of leak detection. So
Are there other communities around us that use the PVC?
yeah, so and
That's been,
yeah, with that memo, I was talking to a lot of other superintendents around the community, and North Liberty is close to like 95% of their total system's plastic. They mostly just use ductile in their cul-de-sacs, because when you get to your cul-de-sacs, most contractors and developers go past the rated deflection on plastic, so if they tap that, that's the only time it breaks. North Liberty also said that any of the breaks that they experienced on plastic was human error. Otherwise, they've had great success with plastic. Same thing with Durant. Durant is going through a few main replacement projects right now, and they're only doing plastic. Wilton, Tipton, and I think there's one other community that I talked to. ISG is getting involved too. They're gonna write us a recommendation for the use of plastic in our water system, and they're gonna grab a few other communities that they deal with that have plastic in their distribution system.
So is there more give for the plastic when you have the freezes and the thaws and the?
So I guess I haven't really looked into the freezing and thawing of plastic. The only ones that I was tracking were our treatment process, where our treatment process might be doing plastic. Because the EPA just released some new high-risk chemicals that actually are involved with plastic manufacturing. So that was the biggest concern that I had right away, was making sure that we start implementing plastic, that 10 years from now, they're not gonna release regulations. We're like, well, you gotta rip it all out. So, I can definitely call back around and see if they've even experienced anything as far as.
Well,
freezing and
it's just
thawing.
kind of a curious thing, you know, what I mean,
Yeah.
because that's what all the water main breaks, a lot of them is just freezing and thawing and, you know, so it's kind of the question is, how it's just. Has anybody experienced that? I mean, and all these other homes and stuff,
Right.
so.
I know the biggest thing with plastic is you have to bed it properly, at least with ductile, it's rigid enough that if you don't have like proper bedding, it has enough tensile strength that it's not gonna bow or give. But then with plastic, you have to bed it properly because it kind of gives up some of that tensile strength.
Yeah.
So you really have to keep a watchful eye on contractors and developers for them to be doing those proper applications.
If you could find a little bit more information on,
Yeah.
on that, you know, just on the freezing and thawing of the ground itself. See how it's faring out to other communities, I guess.
I mean, obviously, I understand a little bit, but with switching to this, I would just wanna make sure that we have the right policies in place too for for inspections, that it's making sure that Nobody covers it up before it's inspected and they have the right
Good idea.
amount underneath and everything else to make sure it is
Yeah.
laid correctly. So that there's not that flexing and stuff and undermining.
Yeah, and that's definitely something we would put in there too. And then we would obviously do away with direct taps. We'd be using tapping saddles rather than direct taps. 'cause
Is it
it's
better? Yeah,
Right. So that'd be another policy that we would implement too, but yeah, it'd definitely be more heavily on the inspection of.
because this would just create a cascade of a few things that we need to make sure that
Right.
people aren't doing things cowboy style.
I think this is something that ISG would be willing to help us along the way as far as drafting policy and then having relationship with these other communities. We can pull from their policies as well and see what's successful to them and what they wish they added and what they haven't added yet. So it's something that we can keep growing on.
Cause this is the green thicker stuff,
It'd
isn't
be
it?
green or blue.
Bluish greenish
Yeah.
kind of
it's
color,
speed
yeah,
on.
yeah.
And JM Eagle out of Wilton actually manufactures a lot of the stuff that gets sent around the United States. And I've actually talked to the plant manager and they're open to tours. So that might be something also where whoever's wanting to go up for a tour, we can schedule a tour and we can go see how the whole process works. I think they even give a demonstration about tensile strength and stuff like that. So just to compare it to.
Have you been down there yet?
I've not, I scheduled a tour back in 2021 or 2022 and then whatever happens, so.
I'd like to go down with you if you ever decide you're gonna go down.
Yeah,
I'd sure that.
Cause I think they can tour up to like 12 people at a time. So the more people I have say that they want a tour, I think the more likely they'd be willing to let us come in.
Yeah, I might take a look on something like that. How many spares do you think you'd anticipate needing? Do we have to probably get you some spares as well, right?
The pipe,
No, the meters. Or I'm sorry, the mains, the water mains. If we switch over, if you had to make any replacements.
yeah, I mean, right now we only hold, I think we have like one 20-foot stick of 16. I think we might have a couple 20-foot sticks of 6 and 8. So we don't really hold a ton right now, so even if with the plastic, even if we just held like a stick of, like even one stick of 6, 8 and 12,
Okay,
I think we'd be good, because then talking to Iowa City, they said if you get into anything over 12, they said it's just better to go back to ductile if you're getting over 12, so we would mostly just be using plastic for 6, 8 and 12, which is 99% of our system. So anything over 12, we would most likely go back to ductile.
For clarification for the ordinance, amendment that would have to be made, would this be an option for developers to use either ductile or PVC, or is the ask to
I
go strictly to
My goal would be to go to plastic, so it'd be
require developers to use?
strictly plastic.
You wanna keep it consistent.
Right, it would just one cohesive material for the whole system. Fittings and valves would still be ductile. They do make plastic fittings for water mains, but they are like 4 times more expensive than the ductile ones.
Hmm.
So
So,
you could go right in with plastic and fix a, cast iron one, right? A ductile one.
yeah,
So, okay, so anything that you go forward with, you won't have ductile around anymore, you'll have plastic, right?
yeah, so like we would, obviously for the sake of our system already being ductile and cast, we would still keep those components until we started getting most of our system switched over. So, yeah, for a time, we would probably end up keeping both.
Sure, okay, I'm just asking a question.
Yeah, no, until projects started getting moved over as street projects go and we can actually make those improvements. But I think moving forward, because there are so many new subdivisions that will be starting
Right,
their build outs, it'd be a time now to allow builders to use plastics to start implementing it into our system.
You said under 16?
Under 16 would be plastic, anything. Also, anything over 12 would be ductile.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I'm more than happy to do more research before we actually make a decision. Obviously, I think city council will have a say in this too, so.
It would have to pass, the ordinance, the 3 readings, to update the construction specs through council.
Yep. Okay, so do we want to hold off on approving then the PVC for mains until we have more information, or are we ready to approve it and proceed with
I'm good either way you want to go with it. So,
I mean, I guess my thing was to make sure that all the other policies were being updated and like to make sure that it reflects, you know, in city code that, you know, how it needs to be different. So if we can get that information just to verify, you know, is it Ray that does all that stuff? Or who's,
So sometimes it's Ray, but a lot of times it's gonna be whatever engineer is overseeing that
Okay,
project,
yeah.
because they'll be on site so that they
And stay-
end it with a situation where they cover it up.
Yeah.
Before somebody can inspect it, so we usually keep an engineer on site for those developments, because we have to accept it. When they're done and
Mhm.
maintain it, so usually
Yeah.
it's our engineers. Ray and our internal staff will all go over the development plans and
Okay.
approve them ahead of time and make sure that they meet the specs and everything, is good that way, but then for the actual on-site, the engineer will usually sign off on that.
cause sometimes, you know, corner get cut and it's really gonna screw you guys over,
Yeah.
and that's not fair.
And I know, so when is it Ivy Acres, 4th Avenue, 3rd Avenue, when that was getting built, they wanted to use plastic, cause at the time ductile, it was like, the estimated time for delivery on like 6-inch ductile was like.
Delayed projects.
So then they really pushed hard for us to allow them to use plastic to pump. And right now, the potential subdivision going across from the elementary, it's getting drawn up as ductile right now, so it was one that. If this policy got passed, that they would be able to use plastic on that one before they broke ground, but. So, yeah, ductile, just the delivery time of ductile was the main issue, plus. The cost of plastic is almost a third of the cost of ductile.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like maybe tabling it just until we get, to make sure to give.
Yeah.
Public also, since it is public information, that it's not gonna be different, with. Like for water main breaks and stuff like that.
You know, and which, how does it heat? Does it heat or, you know, I mean,
Right.
so.
And that comes all down to bedding,
Mhm.
so.
And like Abby was saying, make sure somebody there,
It's gotta have flexibility because they'll take
exactly,
multiple sticks of it, fuse it together and then bore it hundreds of feet under the ground with no bedding, nothing.
Yep.
It's just strictly boring it through the ditch, we just.
Yeah,
and I know they do, that's, I'm just saying, you know, I just make sure, you know, how does it last when a cold year, you get the frost and it goes down, and, you know, does it split, does it crack, how does it wear, you know, I mean, and that's always kind of one of the things that, how long's it been out there that people have been using it, you know? Just a lot of things that make sure we're doing the right thing going forward, you know?
Yeah. I know, part of that memo was a brief history on the use of plastic in water mains, and I know it started in Germany in the I think they started making plastic pipe in like 1920s. Then they implemented it in the 30s. And what the history things that I was reading is that a lot of that pipe that they first implemented is still being used today with no problems. The only issue I've ever seen as far as plastic was if it got overheated. Then it would release the chemicals that are in that plastic, but that'd be like anything else, if your water bottle melted and you drank out of it, it'd be the same thing.
Yep.
But there's like a 240 degrees, like the melt point for. So it's
We're all in trouble.
I would say,
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
volcano underneath of Eldridge if we got to that point, so.
Yeah.
And Moline uses it a lot,
Yeah.
like their distribution and.
That north and down.
I was gonna say, I thought Davenport did too, don't they?
Yeah. That north and down.
I was, they just did a second feed to Bluegrass and used all plastic. And they would fuse
I've seen a lot of.
I can't tell you how many hundred of feet at a time, then bore it.
Yep.
And so, you know, that, it's pretty neat to watch them fuse those links.
And they can actually pipe burst ductile and cast now. So that could be something where we don't even, we can do almost a zero invasive replacement of old mains. All we'd have to do is dig up and put valves in and retap. So we could virtually replace everything without having to dig very many holes or any trenches.
Yep. Kind of the way to go, but
Yeah, I mean, I know other places have policy. I just wanna make sure that everything else
Mhm.
following that does get done the right way, so that way there's no corners cut.
Yep, I'll definitely talk to,
Yeah.
I can talk to Ohio American and see what their policy is, and we
Yeah,
can.
just to make sure that we're covered for any liability or anything, make
we
sure that we're
just
not missing
table it until
anything.
the next meeting then.
Yep, so
Just
7D.
get the ordinance draft together and bring it to this next meeting that we would be proposing to council.
For that way, it's all done
Spell
all
it
at the
out
same
for you.
time,
Okay,
and then we go,
You'd be able to see the specs and what would be changed in the ordinance, and everything else in code related to water mains would stay the same as far as inspections and the requirements for the developers.
Perfect.
But that would give you an idea of what that amendment would be.
good,
yeah, cause that way we can do it all at once,
Yep.
okay. So
if that makes sense.
7D was able for now. And 7E, any department updates, Ian?
Yeah, so new operator, he started on January 2nd. The learning process is actually going very, very quickly. Like within the first 2 days of him starting, he figured out backwashing, so pretty much I've been taking care of that now until he really gets a routine for that. He's working on getting down with the testing. It's a little bit different than what he was doing in Long Grove, so that's coming along. He's actually picked it up faster than I think I even did when I started. So he's doing great. We're kind of just working on getting him and his truck outfitted, so just PPE and tools that he might have been missing for his truck for him to do maintenance in the field. The HVAC is still been giving us some troubles, so Baker Group is actually coming down tomorrow to help us give a little more interface to that program that we had implemented. Basically what's going on is the return temperature and then the intake, the flap for the intake is open too much. So we're intaking so much outside air that the return air, when it's mixing, we're actually not really heating the building. Like we can barely maintain 60 degrees. So we're still using the industrial heater from the waste plant until we can kind of figure out those set points. So when we can change those set points, hopefully we can manage a little bit more in there. We just don't want it to get below 60 because then we'll run into trouble with treatment materials.
Sure.
Our tier 2 volatile chemical annual report's been submitted. Our annual water use report has been submitted. We used 218 million gallons last year. It's actually 7 million fewer gallons in 2023. We did run into some bugs with that one. Of the 4,000 systems that do that annual water use report, we were one of 3 that had the bug happen to us. So it took like 2 weeks to report rather than 1 day. Yeah, the EPA released a new report on high-risk chemicals, one of them being vinyl chloride, which is heavily used in plastic productions. That East Palestine, Ohio incident that happened, that was vinyl chloride. And they're kind of using that city as a science project. They're seeing what the effects of that are gonna do to people without telling the people about it, so. We're gonna closely watch that one, but a lot of the chemicals listed in that new high-risk chemicals, we test with our annual compliance and our VOCs, IOCs, and SOCs. So we're kind of already ahead of the board there. We're making sure that none of these things are in our drinking water. In March, I'll be sending the operators to a trenching and shoring class in Ankeny, just so they can get caught up on that, so they're more competent when we're dealing with main breaks. They're comfortable around trenching. They understand when a box is necessary. They can look for soil composition and just make sure that we're in a safe environment. They'll make them the competent operators while they're on site. KLM was out today. They did an inspection on the old tower for what US Cellular did for their update on the cell phone towers or the cell phone radios that are up there. I asked if he wanted to reschedule because of how bad it was today, but he just said he had to get it done, so he was up on the tower today. He's gonna give me a full report on Friday and I can send you guys that too. I think he's gonna send it to Nevada so we can get that to you guys when he gets his report taken care of.
Can you send us the EPA news stuff, that high risk report thing?
Yep, I can send you guys
That'd
that.
be great, thanks.
Yeah, I'll send it over. So, as far as water, we're making it happen. So that's my update.
Thank you, Keegan.
Yep, thank you.
Before you adjourn, can we go back to, item 7C? I didn't clarify it on the agenda item. It's, in the memo, but I just want to make sure I have clarification on whether or not, so Keegan is the grade 2 operator and responsible in charge.
Yes.
And we've already had that discussion, I think previously, but I didn't spell it out in the agenda item like I did when we did the foreman, so it's with approving that, job description and base wage, does that approval also include Keegan as in that position, or would you like that to come back as a separate item?
No, I'm good with it.
I'm good with, yeah, I guess there was an assumption.
Yep,
made that it's gonna
We
be
had talked
Keegan.
about it and I put it in the memo, but usually I'm better about, being more specific on the agenda with that in there, so I just wanted to make sure I had that clarification.
It's almost gonna add a congratulatory, because it felt weird. It's like, okay, we've approved this, but, yes, congratulations.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's huge.
All right.
Keep working hard.
That'll make you guys proud.
All right, motion to adjourn,
One motion.
motion by Peterson,
Second.
second by Hamilton, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.
Imagine waiting